Hi, my name is Jared Heng. I'm an American born to Southeast Asian immigrants. When I was a child, my parents often told me of the hardships they had to endure as immigrant children displaced by war. My father and his family escaped the Cambodian Genocide, which was carried out by the communist Khmer Rouge regime between the years of 1975 to 1979, and killed up to 3 million people. My mother and her family were one of the Vietnamese boat people, Vietnamese refugees who escaped the country by boat after the Vietnam War. My parents told me the stories of the lives they lived before and after these traumatic events, so naturally, I wanted to learn more. In the documentary that follows, I'll be retelling the story of how my father and his family escaped the Cambodian Genocide and immigrated to the United States. As an American learning history throughout the public, private, and charter school systems, we never seemed to cover the events that brought my parents to the United States and myself into existence. When I turned to the Cold War section of my history textbooks, if they even had them, the most I'd get was a page or so on the Vietnam War. If I was lucky, the word Cambodia would show up once in a single sentence. It felt as if the history of an extant nation of people beset by death and destruction wasn't important enough for a single page of history. If I were to hazard a guess, you're probably wondering where Cambodia is. This is Cambodia, also known as Kampuchea, in what was once Indochina, the countries of Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. China is to the north, with the Pacific Ocean to the east. As it turns out, there's an incredible amount of complicated history in Indochina. As such, what follows is a shortened history of the Cambodian Genocide, with the additional context of Vietnam, the United States, and their roles they played in setting the stage. The Cambodian Genocide is an oft-forgotten atrocity that claimed the lives of between 1.5 to 3 million people, which was a quarter of Cambodia's population at the onset of the genocide. It officially started in 1975, at the end of the Vietnam War. The Khmer Rouge, French for Red Khmer, comprised mainly of ethnic Khmer, who made up 85% of Cambodia's population at the onset of the genocide. The Khmer Rouge was led by Pol Pot, a ruthless, French-educated Cambodian communist revolutionary and politician who governed the country as its prime minister between the years of 1975 and 1979. They targeted members of all other national, ethnic, racial, and religious groups of people. Though they tended not to target ethnic Khmer or native Cambodian speakers, the Khmer Rouge also targeted other Khmer peoples if they belonged to the previous government or were otherwise deemed enemies of the state. People who wore glasses or spoke multiple languages were executed for fear that they would rebel against the regime. They also targeted professionals, intellectuals, the Buddhist monkhood, and ethnic minorities. The Khmer Rouge banned the existence of more than 20 ethnic groups, which comprised of an estimated 15% of Cambodia's population. By the end of the estimated 3 million deaths, 1.4 million of those deaths were the result of direct violence or executions. The rest was the result of famine, disease, or other indirect causes. In 1968, before their rise to power, the Khmer Rouge started the Cambodian Civil War by launching an insurgency against King Norodom Sihanouk. Communist North Vietnam, in some capacity, provided shelter and weaponry to the insurgents. In 1970, with his failure to effectively put down the insurgency, King Sihanouk was deposed and exiled by his own government, leading to the creation of the short-lived, pro-US Cambodian Republic under Lon Nol. Under Henry Kissinger, the United States led a series of bombing campaigns targeting the neutral border region of Cambodia. Between the years of 1970 and 1973, they targeted North Vietnamese supply lines and guerrilla strongholds. This bombing campaign destabilized the already unstable country. After years of devastating civil war, the Khmer Rouge marched triumphantly through the capital of Phnom Penh in 1975. After renaming the country to Democratic Kampuchea, they formed a new regime under Pol Pot. They then systematically emptied out city after city, using the looming threat of American bombings as justification. North Vietnamese and Cambodian relations were historically strained, though for a short while the communist governments of both countries maintained outwardly positive relations. After the United States pulled its forces out of Vietnam in 1975, any semblance of cooperation between the two communist states quickly eroded. Following a few years of border conflicts, a massacre that resulted in the deaths of 3,000 Vietnamese civilians, and the growing distrust between the Soviets and the Chinese, who supported Vietnam and Cambodia respectively, Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion of Cambodia in 1979. During the invasion, the Vietnamese found region after region plagued by famine, disease, infighting, destruction, and death. Among other evidence of the Khmer Rouge's atrocities is the prison of torture called Tuol Sleng, also known as S-21. It was a converted schoolyard that became the final resting place of an estimated 20,000 prisoners. Of these, 23 survived when the prison was liberated. Also found throughout the entirety of Cambodia were thousands of mass graves, which would later be called the Killing Fields, after which a movie would be named. My father and his family, who are ethnically Southern Chinese, were at a great risk of being executed. My aunts recall my grandmother telling them to not speak Chinese and only speak Cambodian. My grandparents knew their time was limited. Luckily, they escaped the country in 1975 at the onset of the genocide. In July of 2018, I interviewed my Uncle Keith, my Aunt Linda, and my Aunt Jenny, as well as my grandmother. In February of 2021, I interviewed my father, Steve Heng. What follows is their stories of their harrowing escape from the Cambodian Genocide.
My name is Keith Heng.
Jenny Gagliano.
My name is Linda Heng.
Sam Heng.
They announced to everybody, said that the war is over, so don't be panicked. Everybody's safe now. After 7 days, they came out and said it's no longer safe in this city. This city will be bombed by American B-52 soon. We had to walk 20 or 30 miles in order to get to the jungle.
So it's like single file. We don't know where we're going, and they don't tell us where we're going. An old man and a little girl was walking behind me. She kept saying, "My dad is old, my dad is old, can I slow down?" They said, "No, you keep going. So your dad is too old." And then they kill him. I got scared when I hear the gunshot. I told Mom, and Mom like, "Let's go, keep going, keep walking."
A week just passed by, I was still in the jungle. They say, well, there's no way you're going back now. So build your own house. Go find the wood. And they provide us very little food. And we had to go out there to the field to find crabs, frogs, snake, tarantula, whatever you found, and eat it. There's actually 6 of us. They got three boys and 3 girls.
And then my brother was, then he catch a pneumonia.
Baby son.
He was only like 4 months, 5 months old. And even though I have medicine, I couldn't help him out.
And he didn't even move. His eye just like that.
We just gathered around and he wouldn't close his eyes until he saw every one of us.
And then he passed away.
That's what made us think twice that we better leave or we're gonna die just like him.
My little brother came to my dad's dream and tell my dad that he have to leave the country, right? Yeah. We had to roll him into a blanket because there's no coffin, and we have to do it secretly so the Khmer's don't see it. Because if they see it, they're just gonna tell us to throw his body away.
So we bury him first and then we escape.
Dad gathered his neighbor and said, "Who wanna go with me? If I stay here, all my kids will die of starvation or of sickness."
Before we escaped, we needed some food. I'm sorry to say this, I killed 1 dog, big dog, like German Shepherd or something. And it's not easy, but we have no choice.
We all dressed in black. Midnight, zoom, everybody meet up and we all start walking.
And how many of you were
There were
there?
about 30 people, yeah, including kids.
As far as the escape, I was only 4 and I was always on my dad's back.
At that first day, we got food, and we thought it's only take 1 day to get to Thailand. The second day, we down to very little food and no waters.
I remember we had to drink dew water from leaves.
One drop, I sip from every tree, every leaf that I can find to quench my thirst.
And they would start eating leaf, grass, anything that we found. One day, we're walking around and around and around the same spot. We don't know where we're going.
And then we hear noise. We didn't know who it was, and then my dad saw the three guys.
They're dressed in black, all the army dressed black. And they have an axe as their weapons, and they have one shotgun, and the other guy have like a shovel. We try to be quiet, but suddenly two of my cousins, the twin, she's crying. The three soldiers, because I heard what they say, must be a ghost. So when they try to run, they run into the bush that we're hiding in. Normally, when they caught you, they will shoot you at the spot. Luckily, the guy, he wasn't ready. And then he thought there's only 5 of them in the front because he only see 5. But actually, we're all lined up behind him. He said, okay, it's okay, if you're lost, let me take you back to the village. When he said, let's go, so we all just rise up from the field. When we rise up, there's like 30 of us in there. And he got shocked. He was like, whoa! When they offered to take us to the village, at the time, we had no choice. We just keep walking and follow them. I don't believe in miracle. That day was so shiny, so bright, and suddenly the storming right away. So when it rained, they lost. They said, oh my God.
We have to turn back. And my dad said, why, what happened? He said, we almost reached Thailand. If you go any further, it will be Thailand.
And now my dad said, oh, did he just say border? And then we were so happy because we are looking for the border of Thailand for a week now.
And then they tell us to wait
here
for them.
Don't go.
Yeah. So we
They
wait
go
for
get
them,
help.
and
Yeah.
then they go get help. Then we decide we run.
Run.
So we have to find our way like swimming in the field because it's so tall, you can see each other. And plus now it's raining and also it's dark. Around 7:30, they brought a truckload of army.
I can hear gunshots so close behind my back. And like mom said, keep going. If you don't go, you're gonna get shot. Keep running, keep running.
They can't see, too dark. So all they do is shooting. They just shoot it in the grass, in the field. They're like boom, 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 boom. And after that, we get in deeper and deeper. We hear just like further. They say, oh, I think we're safe now. Now we can take a rest now. So when we rest, we all just drop dead. After we woke up, we're so thirsty again. So we have no choice. You have to drink your own pee.
Instead of drinking everybody else's pee, you know, you have to drink, you can pee yourself and drink your own. I was like, ew, that's gross.
And I remember what it tastes like too. The pee that you haven't peed for a long time is kind of yellow and it's nasty.
My mom told me to pee, and I said, why I have to pee? She said, just say pee. So then she gave me the drink. So I took a drink. I go, oh yeah. I go, yeah, what is that? And then mom said, it's your pee. Did you drink the pee too?
ไม่ไม่พักกันเมาไหม
Yeah. What it tastes like?
Ooh. That's a
We found 2 boys and a father. We say, sir, please help us. What city is this? He said, no, this is Thai. I said, Thai? Really? So he said, okay, don't worry. We went to the temple and they come and rescue us. And they brought us to a refugee camp.
So I just start with the fact that I was born in Cambodia. Based on the official records, it was August 18th, 1965. So when I was born, my mom was not able to take care of me and the 2 siblings. My grandfather had decided to come and take me and raise me. So they had taken me from, I believe, the main town that our family had residence in was a town called Stung Treng, and they had Grandma took me to live in a village not far from there. But my understanding is that I grew up in a small village with lots of cousins. We had no school. We would just go out and have fun, howling at mango trees, climbing mango trees. And my mom's baby sister, she really the one that took care of me. And there were stories that were told that when the bombings were going on, I would be the first that she grabs and would bring me to the back bunker. Not until things start to, country started to fall apart, that everyone started to reunite. Grandpa decided to join up with my parents and my family, and that's when I got to know my siblings, oldest brother Keith and older sister Linda, and younger sister Jenny. We sort of reunite to determine where we're going to go next. And not knowing what direction the Khmer Rouge was going, somehow my parents decided to go to the countryside. And we established a new residence there for a while. Exactly how many months or how many years, I don't know. Mom and Dad had set up a general store, and Uncle Keith was helping with running the general store, and Grandpa was there. While we were in this town, that's when Grandpa started to hire tutors. Interestingly, he wanted us to learn more Chinese, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. I grew up speaking mostly Chao Chou because Grandpa only spoke Chao Chou, and I had to learn how to speak Cambodian. I just remember that one day when we went to our little tutor place, the teacher was not there anymore. And that's when we started to realize something's going on, and it's now reached our little town. I just remember one day that there's a bullhorn came out and just said, "Get out of your house and come and follow us." And so we packed whatever we could. We didn't know we were coming back home or not, and so we just packed whatever we could and just follow along. Now the tough part was I was also sick at this time. So I was ill. I don't know if I was flu or cold, whatever illness I had. Next thing I remember was we were lined up on each side of the road with the soldiers in the middle, and we would just go on a long march. I didn't witness any type of punishment or anything that was going on, but I know my sister did. She witnessed some soldiers killing people and so on, but I did not. I remember my grandpa was pretty much either carrying me or had me lean on him and hold me all the time as we marched. Once the soldiers decided that they're done marching us, they found a location, and it's in the middle of nowhere. They said, "This is your new home. Go and build yourself a shelter for each family." Every day we wake up and we line up for our daily food offerings that they give us, and typically it's a bowl of rice with maybe a few pieces of dried meat or dried fish, and the rest of the time we forage the land. And we look for snakes, we look for frogs, we look for crickets, we look for grasshoppers, and anything to provide protein in addition to the little food that they provide for us. Every evening they typically have some type of propaganda rally to give the whole speech of, we have a new Kampuchea, and we are now united as a utopian society, and we will help one another to rebuild. And that was one way for them to decide, okay, if you wear glasses and you're a teacher or you're a professor or your history of doing that, it's their way of taking you away and execute you, so that they will make sure that those who stick around will obey their rules and their laws and their demands. Even though I was born in Cambodia, my skin tone and my features is more Chinese.
Right.
So yes, a lot of they give you different looks, but if you're cooperating and you're not rebelling and you're not resisting, they tend to overlook those things. Since our family really not having any educational skills, we were lucky that no one was in that boat of taken away to be executed.
Do you remember like roughly the ratio of like soldiers to people?
If I were venture to guess, it's probably 100 to 1. And so it's not like, but you know, when you have the guns, they have the guns and you got nothing, no one resisted, or if they did, we didn't hear about it. Because you're so busy locking your own little world, doing your own little thing, that you tune out what's around you. Didn't really focus on what was going on other than trying to live and survive. And a baby brother, he was very young. He was just probably, I want to say he was less than a year old, maybe less than 6 months. Was, but he was really sick, and we were separated into different groups to do different odd jobs. From the stories I've heard from my cousin who was there longer, we were lucky, or I was lucky, that I didn't get to the point where they took me away to either become a soldier, trained to be a soldier, or to do other work. So had we been there for another couple months, that would have happened to us. I guess once people realize what's going on was when people start to figure that we either live here and do what they ask, or we're gonna die. Because when they came in saying that they're here to get rid of the Vietnamese army that invaded Cambodia. I give all the credit to my dad to make the decision to find a way out of this, he called it hellhole. What triggered that decision was when my baby brother was so sick that he passed. And so when he died, I remember that evening when Keith, Linda, Jenny, and I was on our knees next to his little blanket. We call him Ti. In Chinese, Ti is like little boy or little brother. After he took his, what we call, I guess, his last breath. And so my dad would, when he buried him, he prayed to his baby son, pray that you go to heaven and reincarnate in a rich country and better environment, but in the meantime help daddy make a decision and also guide the rest of our family out of this place. So as he's planning, he's talking to the family that wants to do it. I believe in total the numbers might be a little off, but the number I remember is 27 of us. Prior to the escape, I remember that my uncle had also bartered whatever we can for a dog, and the dog was our last meal, and that was our stew. I think we had a dog stew, I would recall, and that was to give us strength to be able to have the protein and the energy built up in our bodies to endure the journey. We're trying to make it from where we were to Thailand. And so when we assembled at a rallying point under this tree, it was good weather, but it was pitch dark night. According to what my dad told me later, we were waiting there because he was waiting for a guide. He had hired a guide to take us to Thailand. The guide didn't show up. And so at this point, we either take a chance and go on our own, or we go back to the camps. The elders made a decision that let's give it a shot. But because we had no sense of direction of where we were going, we just kept marching, and a trip that was supposed to take overnight turned into, now we're lost somewhere in the jungle. The food was prepared for only that first night, so now the next several nights, several days, we're just foraging the land. We find frogs, or we eat leaves or plants that fortunately didn't poison us. The other thing that we got lucky is we never encountered any wild animal like tigers and lions that could have killed us. I like to believe that it's divine intervention. Perhaps it was my baby brother that was watching over us. We went on, and at this point, second day, we're still walking in the jungle, and we don't know where we are. We kept going. This part I remember being told by my dad, and what happened was he woke up on the third morning and he told my mom that he had a dream, and in his dream was a scene of us being captured by some soldiers, and there were 3 of them. And then another scene in his dream was that he saw a little boy, and the little boy took him by the hand to lead him away from this danger. The boy that took him by the hand was his baby son. The next day, the third day, was a day that we actually got captured. And that's when we were captured by, I believe, were 3 soldiers. They were just regular people like us that were taken into the Pol Pot military. They happened to wander upon us, and the reason why they heard us was because they heard a baby cry. That was my baby cousin, who was on the trek, and when they heard a baby cry, they had all of us stand up, and were shocked as the number of people that was with us. Most of I call it the weeds in Cambodia are tall. I mean, you're literally almost like as tall as a tall cornfield, where you walk in, no one sees you, and all you hear is rustling. And so the rustling of the leaves and of the bamboo trees and so on is how they heard us and spotted us. They wanted to help us find camp like they are and go with them, and instead they got lost. There was a point in time when the adult men considered taking these guys out and killing them, either them or us. But it was the adult women, my mom and aunts and all that, said, we're not here to take lives, and we're not going to hurt anybody. The adult men was able to convince them that, we got a lot of people here, a lot of kids, we can't follow them if they're lost, and they said, okay, stay and wait here, and we'll go find camp, we'll come back. So they took off, and after they took off, a couple hours later, one of them forgot his bag or something and probably pretended to leave his bag, and then came back and we were still waiting. And then after they took off, we all decided to drop everything we got and just go light and go the opposite direction. That third night, we could hear probably helicopters from the U.S. military, whatever it was. We hear helicopter, we hear noises, we hear gunshots going on, and but we thought they were after us, but they really weren't. And most of the time when we were marching, they made the decision to march during the day, because you have daylight, you see where you're going, and we try to rest at night. Day 4, day 5, we're still lost, and at this point I remember we were start to dig holes to get water, and the water looks like coffee with condensed milk. It's brownish, and so you sip that just to have some fluid in you. You drink dews that's on leaves in the morning. When there's dews, you lick that, and you eat leaves and all that just to survive. We also resort to drinking our own urine. Of course, you're not hydrated, so most urine at that point are dark yellow, and it's warm and nasty smelling. But at this point, we were just trying to stay nourished. Day 5, day 6, we stumble upon a stump, an old tree stump that had hole in the water, stayed in there, and I think because it's probably been fermenting, it's probably got lots of bacteria and germs and all that. But we all, again, had to drink whatever we could. And one by one, everyone just got tired and fell asleep. And then before we all went down, the adults decided amongst themselves, someone needs to go try to find food, try to find camp, turn ourselves in, because at this point we gave up. And instead, they came back with wagons and a couple monks from a nearby temple. And it turned out that it was a Thai temple. They took us in, and I remember them saying, don't rush and eat so much because you don't want to destroy your body that's been malnourished. But a few days later, we were taken to the refugee camp. And at the refugee camp, that's where you register. And you register the family, register everybody. During the registration, this is when Grandpa basically made a statement that we're all newborn. And so we all shaved our heads. And then he gave us a new name. And he came up with the last name Heng, H-E-N-G, because when you say Heng in Cambodian, it means luck. And we were lucky to be alive. We were lucky to survive what we went through. Then he even gave us everyone a new birthday, and signifying that we're now reborn.